Welcome to DD Durban Online. We're a church family on mission to see Durban change into a place where Jesus reigns. Here's this week's message.
And then with that said, we're also starting off today with a brand new sermon series. So if this is your first day joining us, you decided on a very good day because you're going to be journeying with us from the beginning all the way right through to the end of this. And the series is called Unfiltered, praying through the Psalms. We're going to be praying together, and I'm going to be preaching on what it looks like when we get to pray through the Psalms. But before I do say anything more about this, I just quickly have to make a confession. It's one of those controversial ones. I actually don't know if I'm able to say it. But I've come to the realization this week that what I believed might not be true. And I've been wondering whether when I'm preaching, whether I'm actually saying the truth to you guys. I've been really confronted, been wrestling with this for quite some time. And I thought this morning might be the right moment just to come and share where I stand. It's interesting to see the doubts on your faces. Just joking. I'm fully convinced of what I believe. But just wanted to say, any of you guys felt like a little bit of doubt there inside? Look at Maria, she's like, I'm going to sort you out. Oh, yeah, wrong church. What am I doing in this church? Sorry for anybody that felt like, what's happening right now? That's exactly what I wanted to happen. Any one of you guys felt like a rug is being pulled underneath your feet? You're like, what's happening to my pastor this morning? Any doubts coming up? You know? So this morning, as I've said, we're going to dive into a series on prayer, and we're going to be praying through the Psalms. Now, the reason for this is, the Psalms, more than anything else, speaks to the human heart. It doesn't speak to theology. It's not just intellectual of sorts. It really dives into the working of our hearts and what's really happening there. It speaks to our emotions. It speaks to the depths of our soul. And this year we said our year theme is to allow His glory to become our story. Yeah? And when it comes to His glory infusing into our stories, here is one of the spaces that we don't always speak about. It's that inner working, that inside world of us, our emotional world, that space that we try and hide most of the time. Most of the time we don't even know what's going on in there. But there is a way in which the Psalms does something and presents us, and listen to this, with a gospel third way of dealing with that reality, dealing with our emotions. The Psalms give us a gospel third way. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean there are two different ways that I usually see people working through their emotions. The first way is the religious way. Most of us grew up in a church of some sort, and in those environments, most likely you would have been confronted with this reality. You can never be not okay. Emotions, we don't speak about that. We keep it in the background. We must have everything under control. Emotions is almost like an uncomfortable, unwanted, don't lose yourself in front of others. You must always be prim and proper. Can anybody relate to that? That's the picture of suppressing my feelings. That's the one way the world presents to us. It's a religious way. The other way is a little bit more of a secular way, and especially in today's secular world, the way we ought to be treating our emotions is we just need to surrender to them, Just become what you feel. We elevate our emotions to becoming, this is my truth, and that's your truth. And my truth is ultimately what I feel it to be true. And when I feel this way, that is the ultimate truth. And we all know, for some, well, maybe you don't yet, but let me tell you, your emotions can mislead you. They can deceive you. What you feel to be true might not always be true. Just like this morning when I showed you guys how quickly you can feel. because you got some false information and suddenly your emotions started to mislead you. So there is another way which the Bible gives us, and that's the Psalms. It's praying your emotions. It's processing them in the presence of God himself, where your emotions is not just you're totally unaware of what you're feeling. Oh, the Psalms does not allow you to do that. It's David speaking, even though I go through the valleys of the shadow of death. I mean, that guy, talk about a guy that's nagging. That's it. Oh, I'm dying. Shadows of death. That man is looking for sympathy everywhere in the world, man. That's where he is. Jannie jammer gaat daar op die stoeltjie. It's going crazy. So the Psalms are not at all ignorant of our feelings. It's very real. It's very authentic. It's very honest. But it's also not on the other side, so it's not unaware, but it's also not overwhelmed. It's not like we succumb to our feelings. There is this moment of clarity. Even though I go through the valley of the shadow of death, your staff, your rod, they will protect me. It's kind of like this grounding space, something more powerful that is at work in our lives. So what I'm going to do over the next few weeks is we're going to go through a journey where we're going to look at different emotions. Doubt is today's one. Next week, tears, fears, guilt. What do we do with those emotions? And what does the Psalms teach us of how to work out and allow God's glory to come and shine a light and to bring healing over those emotions in our life? And that our story can become far more a reflection of his glory. So I want you to put your seatbelts on and get your hearts open as we're going to dive into this. And we're going to do that by reading in Psalm chapter 73. If you have your Bible, you can go there. Otherwise, you can follow me on the screen. It's Psalm 73. I'm going to read verse 1 to 3, and then I'm going to read verse 12 to 26. And then we're going to unpack what the psalmist has to tell us about doubt. Starts off like this. Surely God is good to Israel, to those who are pure in heart. But as for me, my feet had almost slipped. I nearly lost my foothold, for I envied the arrogant when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. This is what the wicked are like, always free of care. They go on accumulating wealth. Surely in vain I have kept my heart pure and have washed my hands in innocence. All day long I have been afflicted, and every morning brings new punishments. If I had spoken out like that, I would have betrayed your children. And when I tried to understand all of this, it troubled me deeply. Till I entered the sanctuary of God. Then I understood their final destiny. Surely you placed them on a slippery ground. You cast them down to ruin. How suddenly are they destroyed, completely swept away by terrors. They are like a dream when one awakens, when you arise. Lord, you will despise them as fantasies. When my heart was grieved and my spirit embittered, I was senseless and ignorant. I was a brute beast before you, yet I am always with you. You hold me by my right hand. You guide me with your counsel, and afterward you will take me into glory. Whom have I in heaven but you? And earth has nothing I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. That's the word of the Lord. We're only going to read that far. So, in this psalm, as I've mentioned, we have a brilliant case of someone struggling with doubt. And to unpack it, I've put it into 3 little brackets. Firstly, it tells us what's the condition that I find myself in when I'm doubting. Secondly, it tells us what's the cause for doubt in our lives. And lastly, it tells us about the cure for doubting. So let's dive in. Number 1, what is the condition? We see that here, somewhere up in the beginning in verse 2. It says the following, but as for me, my feet had almost slipped. I had nearly lost my foothold. Gives us this picture of someone that doesn't have solid ground to stand on. You know, when you doubt, when you're caught up in the sea of doubt, you don't have clarity. You don't have certainty. Your feet is not solidly on a rock. You're wondering about things. You're thinking. You're in two places at once. That's the picture of doubt. The picture that I love explaining always when I talk about doubt is that the English word, I don't know why the English are so weird when it comes to this, but their spelling is like totally off the charts. It's like the English and the French. I don't know what to do with them. The Afrikaners, we love spelling well. We don't struggle with all of these silent stuffs and silent B's and no whatever. But when you look at doubt, I don't know if you guys have seen in the beginning of that slide, doubt is spelled with a B. D-O-U-B-T. But you never say Daub. Anybody said that before? No, it's a silent B. And do you know why it's a silent B and why we spell it like that? Well, it's because it comes from another word in English, which is double. So doubt comes from the word double, because it means you are in a double mind. When you doubt, you are double-minded. Your mind is at two places at the same moment. You're uncertain. Should I be here? Should I be here? Is God good? Isn't He good? That's doubt. Doubt, you're caught in the middle of two things. You're actually experiencing something of a tearing apart. In fact, to doubt takes a lot of arrogance, filled with pride, when you want to ride your doubt. Why do I say this? Might not even be intentional arrogance, but here's the reason why I'm saying it. God created you to live right here and right now. He made you to be present in one place at a time. I cannot be in two places at once because I am only a human being. God can be in two places at once. He can be everywhere at once. That's what He does. I can't be. I can only be here and right now. But doubt is something that forces me. Just think about this physically. I want to give you a physical picture of this. If I would like to be here and with the kids' ministry at this very moment, how should I do it? You need to come and rip me apart. Do you know the amount of tension that my body is going to experience as you start trying to divide me from top to bottom? Just imagine the amount of stress that it's going to put on my body if I want to be here and there in the same moment. That's what it's going to mean, literally. It's going to cause so much stress that ultimately it will kill me. I won't be able to exist anymore. I'm going to cease to exist when I try to be in two places at once. And what doubt does is it's a temptation for us to try and be somewhere in our minds that we were not created to be. How many thoughts can you think of at once, consciously? Can you do two thoughts? No matter how well you are at multitasking, like my wife. She can only think of one thing at a time. You can't think of two things consciously at the same time. That's the picture of doubt. So whenever we are stuck in our doubts, and I'm not saying doubt is a sin, I'm just saying that is the condition. When you find yourself in two places at once, it's almost like your mind is busy ripping apart. And you know what's the two things that usually gets us there? It's either worries of the future, that side, and I'm worried. You know, will I one day have what I truly desire to have? Will God be good for me? Will He look after me? There is a lot of stuff in my future, a lot of uncertainties. And then I try to, when God has placed me here, I try to be there. Do you guys see what happens? And you're stuck in doubt. The other way we do it is we go visit and revisit the past. I messed up somewhere. I feel uncertain. How can I correct that wrong? And I'm struggling with that. And the whole time I'm overcompensating here because I'm trying to fix what was there. Maybe I made even the wrong choices. I'm not sure. And my mind is going all over the place. Do you guys see what doubt does? That's the condition of doubt. Can I just quickly see by show of hand? Anyone that might be struggling with doubt in their lives? Great, so this is going to be a relevant sermon. I'm so happy and so excited to see that. Okay, so what's interesting about doubt, even though I've explained it so nicely now, for most of us, when we think of doubt, we only make it an intellectual argument. You know, doubt has this way of masquerading itself as if it's only intellectual. You know, when I say, how do you feel? You don't tell me I feel doubt. Nobody says it like that. They say, I just doubt. When you doubt, you might tell me that you feel confused. Anybody been there before? I feel torn in two. I'm feeling very uncertain. I don't know what the future holds for me. I'm afraid. Doubt might even cause that. Those are the feelings that we associate with doubt. Yet doubt is primarily a feeling. It's not just a condition of the mind. And that brings me to the cause of doubt. We find that cause of doubt here in verse 3 and 12 and 13. Check out what happened here. It says, for I envied the arrogant, and when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. I see something that I don't believe in. I absolutely believe when you're a righteous man, God should prosper you. And now I see the wicked, and they are prospering. I see something, and it's stirring something within me. Ek kry so sooi brandjie. You guys know what I'm talking about when I'm saying a sooi brandjie now. Something is happening in here because I don't like what I'm seeing. Listen to what he expected. He says, the wicked are like this, always free of care. They go on accumulating wealth. Surely, in vain, I have kept my heart pure. He's in doubt. He's like, I'm seeing someone else is filled with great treasures. Why have I been such a good person? Look at this. I'm not getting all of this prosperity. Look at the wicked. They just want to get more and more. They're greedy. Why have my heart been pure? It's in vain. Do you guys see? So there's the tension for this man. And it brings us to the cause of doubt. Because doubt is not just simply an intellectual split. It's not just being double-minded. It's actually having your mind and your heart in two separate spaces. It's when something that you know to be true gets challenged by something that you feel and hope would be true. Do you hear what I'm saying? It's when your heart and your mind is in conflict and it's divided. So let me give you an example, practical one. Imagine a lady finding a new handsome hunk. He's tall, dark, and handsome. He's that guy. She falls head over heels in love with him. But he is one of those guys that you know, bad news. She's uncertain about this relationship. She's not sure whether it should continue. So she goes to all of her best friends, all 6 of them, that's been with her through thick and thin. They walk the road together. They know one another from this high. They really shared life together. And she goes and consults with all 6 of her best friends and asks them, you know what? This new guy walked into my life. Oh, man. He's almost so lam. Woo. And she asks him. And they look at her, and because they deeply and dearly love her in the most loving way, they say, stay away. The first one says, he's trouble. Second one says, he is big trouble. Third one says, he's trouble. Every single one of them says, you should not go out. I mean, does she have clarity of mind now? All 6 of her best friends, that's all for her. Not even mom and pa, just best friends in this case. All of them says, no, stay away. Yet she thinks to herself, maybe this time will be different. maybe because I am the one. I'm going to fix this guy. I know. What do you hear happening there? I mean, reason tells you, if your best friends, that's all for you, tells you, stay away, we love you. Don't be engaged with this relationship. This guy, bad news. I can color in how bad he is if we want to, but you guys get the point. Yet, if that was only a mind thing, doubt should be gone by now because we have clarity of mind. We clearly see not good choice. It's almost like an advert. Don't buy this thing, not a good thing to buy. They lie, you know? And then clearly, I'm not going to go back there and buy it. But it's not as simple as just a mind issue. There's something that struck her heartstrings. You know what I call that? I call it her heart is on Technicolor music video. Something is playing Technicolor music video to her. And her mind is on FM radio. So you have this video kill the radio star picture. And her mind will never surrender to where her heart is at that moment because something is drawing her heart closer. Can you relate to this? That's usually the moment when we fall into the sea of doubt. When we don't want to listen to our reason, but our hearts are taking us places. And we need to work through that process. That's what doubt is. Doubt doesn't come through thinking. It always comes through experience. I've never talked to someone that is doubting their faith, doubting God's guidance, doubting all of the goodness that Jesus is telling them to do right now, that has not been in a place where they either experienced pain or they're in the moment of experiencing temptation and they're hoping that that experience will change things for them. Doubt is always a matter of experience. This guy knows the truth, but yes, now he experiences. He sees. He sees how the wicked are full with prosperity. Do you guys see? You know, I never doubt whether God's good until I find myself in a place where I'm experiencing big pain. Then suddenly that question comes up. When there's a lot of uncertainty in my life, then I start asking the big questions. So, how do we cure doubt? How do we deal with this? For most of us, when you're stuck in doubt, if we don't deal with this, I'm going to give you the cure right now, but if we don't do it, you're either going to be caught in a place of an immense amount of fear and uncertainty. Filled with fear, never knowing left or right. And sometimes we even rebel against that, and we just walk away. So how do we deal with our doubt? 4 things. Firstly, we need to doubt our doubts. Secondly, we need to enter the sanctuary. Thirdly, we need to compare our footholds. And lastly, we need the assurance of a gracious God. And that's what the psalmist tells us. So I'm going to dive into number 1. Unpack them quickly for you guys. Firstly, we need to doubt our doubts. What do I mean by this? I mean we need to be radically honest with ourselves. Our hearts, seeing that it might lead us into places of doubt, is never pure. Our motives are not always pure. Sometimes it might be 90% pure. 90% of why we're struggling and stuck in this is honestly, truthfully, really a challenge. And 10% of it might be something there. Other times it's like 90% wrong motives. Something is not okay. We see that in verse 3 as well. Check this out. I love how honest this psalmist is. It's a psalm of Asaph. It's not of David. And he says the following. He says, "For I envied the arrogant. In my heart, there is something that's not godly. In my heart of hearts, I do not believe what God says is true." God says, I do not need to envy anyone, for all men are made equal under God. And He will provide for everyone. Do not look at anyone else and envy what they have. Be content with what I've given you, because what I've given you is good. Do you believe what I'm giving is good? Do you believe that I am in essence good? This man is so honest. He comes into God's presence and he's doubting his doubts. He's radically opening up what's really going on in his heart. What's really going on in my heart, this is not an intellectual conversation, God. In fact, actually, I'm angry because you give people stuff that I don't have. That's what he's saying. And you will never be able to deal with your heart and where it's misleading you if you're not able to be honest with God about where you truly are. We need to be truly and really honest, because there's always some sort of pride that steals this opportunity for us to be truly honest, even if it's just 10% of it. And as I was doing research for this, one of the classic examples that came to the front as I'm reading through it was in the olden days, in the hippie days, when a lot of people threw out like God, just like threw out the whole book and everything He has to say. And C.S. Lewis writes about this, and he gives us a beautiful story of guys being on college campus. And then the one guy admitting and saying, you know what, in those days, we threw out God and all of his good guidance, not because we really, truly doubted. It's because we were working with a loaded die. We didn't want to have it. We wanted to have the freedom to do whatever we wanted. We wanted to live a life that fitted us, our hearts. We were not really reasoning with God. We're just looking for excuses because our hearts were not in a good space. So if you're struggling with doubt, the first question that you need to ask yourself is, where is your heart truly? Why are you really asking the questions to God that you're asking? Because then we're going to get to the real problem, and we're going to start journeying through that. First one, doubt your doubts. That's unfortunately not enough. The second thing that we need to do is enter the sanctuary. We need to enter into God's space. You know, for people that says, I don't want to come to church because this is not going to help me. I don't want to pray through my doubts. God needs to come to me kind of vibes. Let me just tell you that your doubts started surfacing when you experienced something. Either on college campus or in your life, there was an experience that brought this question. And therefore, you need to be in a place where you can experience someone else bringing a different worldview to the table. Hence, this idea of praying my doubts through with God. That's experience, sitting in His presence and allowing His word and His Spirit to start working slowly but surely, lovingly, patiently, with grace that you cannot even imagine, coming to rest upon your heart, coming to slowly but surely heal it as He's sitting with you. I love doing this in the mornings, my coffee with the King. That's where He starts changing my heart. Sometimes when I'm prepping, God tells me there's some stuff that we had to chat through and you haven't chatted through them. I want to invite you, enter His sanctuary. Don't do this only intellectually. Open up your life experience to His words and speaking to you. So that's number 2. Number 1, doubt your doubts. Number 2, do it in His presence. We see that in verse 17, by the way. Look at this. Verse 16 says, when I tried to understand all of this, it troubled me. That's when I was just busy reasoning it through. I'm just trying to understand it. Until I entered the sanctuary of God, until I came into your presence, until I said, God, I'm ready. Speak. My heart is now in a place of surrender. That's the moment when I understood final destiny. Number 3, we need to compare footholds, meaning we need to compare solid ground. This is quite remarkable. Verse 2 and verse 18 says something quite profound. It says, but as for me, my feet had almost slipped. I had nearly lost my foothold. He speaks of his uncertainty and the thing that he holds. And then he talks about the wicked, the world out there and their level of uncertainty and what they believe. And he says, surely you place them on a slippery ground. You cast them down to ruin. I nearly lost my footing, but your footing will definitely get you into a place where you're down into ruin. You don't have anything solid to hold on to. What do I mean by this? Whenever we're in a place of doubt, let's use the example of suffering. Everybody always asks this question. Why does a good God allow suffering? And a lot of people actually says, this is the reason why I am no longer going to believe in God. Because look at what He's doing. He's allowing suffering. Anybody before heard about that one? Okay. Meaning, it's a little bit shaky. I can't see how you believe in a good God that says He's love and He's good, yet there is suffering. Okay, so just one side of the coin. Let's quickly look at what God provides for us in that space. Let me just compare footholds, because the other option is I don't believe in Him anymore, I'm now an atheist. What does that worldview present to us when it comes to suffering? In God's worldview, presenting suffering, first of all, it doesn't deny it. The Bible is very clear on suffering. It's there. It gives us the cause for it. It's whenever we walk away from what God does, and this world is filled with that kind of brokenness because of that decision that we've made. It's so clear. It's interesting to see in Genesis 1 God appoints humanity to rule over His creation. Interesting. So why is it not going well in His creation when we are appointed? The question is not, why does a good God allow it? The question should be, why are we allowing? Okay? That's the starting point of it. Now I know that's the basic, that's the easy one to explain, because sometimes we deal with suffering that we had no cause in, no hand in. And that's there where we need to see the not simplistic but very complex picture that the Bible gives us. When He says suffering has a way, sin has a way of not just affecting me when I sin. My sin breaks down the whole community around me. In some or other way, it reaches all nooks and crannies. Do you see, it's not at all simplistic about this. It's really deeply, intricately connecting and exploring this idea of suffering and sin. And then ultimately, and here's the hope, God Himself comes to suffer on our behalf, to remove and give us hope that after the one place all suffering leads to, death, there is hope and life after that. So we can look at any kind of suffering. It doesn't mean we don't cry. It doesn't mean we don't experience hardship when we go through that. The Bible is not ignorant of that. It's very real about it. But it does give us an ultimate hope. It says, don't grieve like the world grieves. We grieve with a great hope. Paul speaks about this. He says, our grief is filled with hope because on the other side of it, there is life and life in abundance. We will see one another one day again, which I'm very excited about. Well, maybe for some of you guys, not too sure about that. But most of you guys, I'm excited that I'll see you on the other side. No, I'm joking. Just want to see that you're still a little bit awake with me. Okay, so that's the one foothold. And I need to put my trust in God. And some people might even say, well, you believe in someone that's raised from the dead. I mean, that is crazy. I've never seen that happen. It's a little bit of a slippery slope. I don't know, What does atheism have to give us? Well, it says, never mind that there's a problem of suffering. It says suffering is the solution. It says survival to the fittest. You should embrace. Nothing should keep you from stepping on someone else so that you may have it better tomorrow, because you're just survival. You're the hope for mankind. What solution does it give to suffering? Zero. There's no hope. It's actually suffer more, break people's lives down even more and more. Where does that foothold lead you? To clear, utter darkness and despair. So compare footholds. There's no such thing as I believed in God and now I unbelieve. No, I believed in God and now I just believe in something else. That's what happens. You attach yourself to something else. Okay, so we need to compare footholds. Last one, we'll only be able to deal with our doubts when we have an assurance of the grace of God. We'll never be able to be honest and bring our deepest uncertainties and our deepest fears before God if we are not convinced that on the other side, when I open up that door, there is someone waiting with open arms, loving me deeply. I don't know about you, but I can so relate to the psalmist when he says this in verse 22 and 23. When I doubted, I did a few stupid things. Sometimes in the way I even reacted. And this is exactly what he says. He says, I was senseless and ignorant. I was a brute beast before you. Why are you doing this, God? I don't like you. You're not doing the right thing. I'm unhappy with your decision. Why did you place me here? Why am I going through this tough season? Ever been there before? Okay. Saying I was there. Yet I am always with you. You hold me by my right hand. Even though I treat you like garbage, you never give up on me. You never leave me alone. Even though I doubt in your goodness, in your grace, in your power, you're always there. Even when I don't see it and I accuse you falsely, you never let me go. You're always with me. You see, the reason why we're not willing to share our doubts with God is because we're too afraid that He will reject us because of what we've done when we were doubting. And the only way to ultimately deal with your doubt is to have the assurance that someone is coming out and he's taking your right hand. And he's taking you with him. You know, when it comes to this, I cannot but think of Jesus experiencing the ultimate doubt storm the world has ever seen. He's in the Garden of Gethsemane, and you can see how his heart and his mind is busy being pulled apart from one another. God, is there another way? I'm thinking, maybe, just maybe I don't have to go through this. And it's like, I can't do this. My heart is afraid. This is too big. And then finally, as he's in this doubt storm, as he's working it through in prayer, just like he's inviting you and me, like we're saying, God, is there another way? Is there maybe a different way? And then ultimately, he surrenders in this fight, which most of us, we don't do. But he says, not my will, but your will. Not what I want, but what you want. Not my heart's desire, but your heart's desire. He's like torn in between these two realities, and then he ultimately surrenders. And why do you think Jesus would ultimately surrender? Because do you know what he's going to face? He's not just going to face brutal punishment and death on a cross. He's going to face the one thing that the world has never seen. The only risk that was truly being taken at the moment of the cross was the fact that God the Father and God the Son would be separated for the very first time in all of eternity, because they have been together as long and even before the world was created. That is the most intimate relationship. That's the relationship that gave birth to the universe as we know it today. And that's the first and only time ever that we read there's a gap. And the only reason why there was a gap is so that you and I can jump in there and be invited into. The thing that got Jesus to go through his doubt was his love for you. You are the treasure of his heart. As he was realigning his heart, it's like, I'm willing to do this. I will bow down to what you say, because this is the way we get them back. And if you don't see that, you will never be able to get peace and rest for your heart in your doubts. Let's pray.
Thanks for joining us online today. As a family, we would love to meet you in person, so plan a visit to our Dr. Deo Durban campus by going to drDeo.org/Durban.